Matt Rhule reportedly opened a joint practice with Deion Sanders' Colorado to aid Nebraska's fresh faces. Have you ever seen blood-soaked rivals toss the knives and shake hands for the greater good? No, right? But Nebraska and Colorado might just flip the script. This season, the CFB world's in a tug-of-war over spring bowls. On one side, teams like Huskers, Ohio State, and Texas are running away to save their players. Meanwhile, Colorado, Michigan, and South Carolina see them as golden tickets to sharpen their abilities before the actual battle. But Deion Sanders? He's not simply participating. He's trying to reshape it using an NFL-style approach. And word in the woods? Matt Rhule might join hands with them. Picture this: Nebraska and Colorado on the same practice field. It's like trying to mix fire and ice. Yet Huskers source Wilson Dittman suggests there's a chance it might happen. A few days ago, Coach Prime surprised everyone by recommending a spring practice game instead of the usual intra-squad drills. He says, to have it competitive, playing against your own guys kind of gets monotonous. You really can't tell the level of your guys because it's the same old, same old. Everybody kind of knows each other. His idea? Bring another team for joint practices, just like the NFL does before preseason games. And that's what Dittman predicts for the Buffs and Huskers in 2026. Look for this year. Matt Rhule and Nebraska have already mentioned their stance for their spring game. With all the tampering issues, that's just a dream this season. But this joint practice proposal can be a done deal next season, as Dittman says. But I think that it's in Nebraska's best interest to do this in 2026 and going forward, and I think that they will. Matt Rhule said, all the time that he's very flexible, that he's always trying to change up his philosophy. Dittman adds to it, saying he's trying to see what works. He's trying to see what sticks. He's been in the NFL. He's done these joint practices before, so he's very familiar with them. And one thing I like about Matt Rhule is he's always adapting to the times. He's not an old school coach. Now, if that happens, it will give coaches a broader prospect to evaluate their players. This feels like a done deal because Matt Rhule continuously makes bold moves while Deion Sanders is revolutionizing college football. Rhule lives by fresh eyes, seeking new perspectives, evident in his decision to bring in Phil Snow as a defensive analyst to provide a fresh evaluation of Nebraska's team. Organizing joint practices is another strategic move by Rhule to prevent Nebraska from becoming stagnant in its ways. And if that's not a fresh approach, how about going with a freshman QB? Matt Rhule didn't hesitate to give the starting job to Dylan Raiola, taking a big gamble on a newcomer. Meanwhile, teams like Colorado and Michigan, who have recruited Julian Lewis and Bryce Underwood, will opt to stick with Kaiden Salter and Mikey Keene instead of fully embracing their future stars. Now, let's shift our focus to a broader perspective where Dittman shares how this approach can be in the team's best interests. How this new proposal can actually benefit CFB programs, fit Wilson Dittman. Well, Wilson Dittman laid it out plain and simple. Joint practices are not just a gimmick, but a game changer. One major benefit is that facing another team directly pushes players to enhance their skills. Despite any opinions about Colorado, they possess talent similar to Nebraska. Engaging in intense practices with a rival for a few days provides a high-energy, pride-driven competition that enhances team performance. Players come prepared to demonstrate their abilities, fueling Nebraska's progress. Then comes the real test. Practicing against your own squad provides a glimpse of talent, but has limitations. However, engaging in a joint practice reveals strengths and weaknesses in real time. This allows you to assess how your top corner matches up against an elite wideout or how your offensive line performs against an unfamiliar pass rush. That's literally what Dittman is trying to make people understand, giving Huskers fresh WR transfer Dane Key's example. Let's say Dane Key is balling out in practice every single day and that all the coaches love him, and then you go and then you do a joint practice with Colorado. Maybe Dane Key does not play very well. That changes your perspective up, and that doesn't mean Dane Key is not a good player, but it changes your thoughts on him.